Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Friendly reminder to always hit the like button, comment below. Consider enabling alerts too, because I have a lot of good content here coming out daily, and you want to make sure to be aware of that. What we're looking at here today is some back-end data, of course, with some order books, just kind of getting perspective on where we're at with the largest positions here locally, and then obviously some really interesting patterns that are forming with some coins here that we're going to be looking at, some double bottoms, some pendant patterns. Most things are bullish, but we're going to discuss the super bullish coins here today, and obviously what to do in these situations. How do you trade these kind of coins? So be sure to stick around. Let's take a closer look. All right, folks, before we get started, I always like to preface with Bitcoin, kind of do a quick analysis there. I'm going to make it very simple for you today because the detailed analysis was in my earlier video. I cover that every single day. So make sure you reference those. Obviously, again, enable alerts so you're notified on that. I think that's probably the most important foundational way to trade is to know what Bitcoin does first before you trade anything else. But now that we understand the premise here and the fact that Bitcoin has broken through its local resistance, that 117K range. 119 to 120 seems like a distinct probability at this point. There's a lot of confluence in that area, so just bear in mind that we may see some slowing pressure here soon as we continue to approach higher price points with Bitcoin. Specifically, 119,000 is that massive area of liquidation. Now, when it comes to areas of liquidation, we're going to talk about that for each coin that we're looking at here today. But in an overview here, we're kind of looking at the order blocks here, kind of seeing roughly where all the positions are or where people want to buy and sell the most for these coins. So I'll be kind of pivoting back and forth between these. On the far left-hand side, we're going to look at Litecoin first. We can see that there's 63,000 positions or bids that are trying to buy at 116. So that's just kind of a rough estimate. 116 range is a pretty significant area of buying pressure, and 120 and 122 is that area of selling. Okay, so we see that significant amount. Now, most coins are going to have that area above and below, but the outliers, what we want to pay attention to, a lot of folks want to buy at 116, so that reemphasizes support in that range. Okay, so we're going to look at that. Let's go ahead and start with Litecoin first. Now, when looking at Litecoin here, I've got our local fibs kind of pulled up. This is a bit more of a macro perspective, but the concept here is that we're in that 0.68 fib level. There's a lot of resistance in this range here. So wouldn't be surprised we see the price kind of go sideways before it legs up. There's also a lot of control above the price based on volume at 121. That's right there in that range of selling pressure, if you saw that just a moment ago, of 120 to 122. So that emphasizes the resistance. So if you're going to consider a long position, that'd be an excellent consideration for a take profit target, or perhaps even an area of interest for a short position. Let's look at the back-end data, kind of see where we're at, first of all, with Litecoin, kind of see if there's any outliers here, kind of letting us know. Once more, we got 120, 118, and approximately 116 are three areas of open interest. It's just kind of a range, but generally speaking, there's a lot of gravitational pull to those areas because that's where there's the most interest. That's the easiest way to describe it, but the concept is that open interest is areas of supports or resistance depending on the side you're on. That's the best way to describe it. Now, when we look at liquidation delta, it's not super massive by any stretch, but it is more bullish than bearish, implying the bulls are now in control. We've got the liquidation range at 119 to 120 above the price. 122 is that secondary area. So overview, I would say here is we have more propensity to go higher than lower in the short term, just based on the simple fact that there's more liquidation above the price, incentive for the whales to sweep those late shorts. We're taking a look here as well. We're above 50 in the RSI, generally favorable, been maintaining that for some time, honestly, and our money flow index is right there with it. These are all positive contributing factors we want to see on the daily time frame, especially this confluence of these moving averages below the price. So if you kind of take a look here, we got our previous high that worked as not a very good low here recently, but the price did pull back quite significantly to that 112 to 114 range. But overview here is that 115 is that 0.5 fib level. If we see the price pull back, that'd be an excellent area to consider a long, just based on, again, a lot of buying pressure. 116 is probably more likely the local bottom though. All right, and that's based on those order blocks. So I do like the way Litecoin is performing here on the daily time frame. The 4-hour also has a ton of confluence in that 115 to 114 range down below, emphasizing support and continuation potential higher. Everything else looks fantastic. Money flow index is tapering off a little bit, but it makes sense considering there was some selling pressure yesterday when the Fed meeting kind of went live, or essentially those the basis points was released. Okay, so it's kind of where we're at there. Overall, I think 120 seems like a distinct probability, even the 122 range, before we see a pullback. So I would expect the price to continue higher here, pending Bitcoin doesn't do a significant correction, which I honestly think is less likely. Just before we take a look at the next altcoin, I want to recommend you consider trading with Bitunix. If you use my link to register down below or have in the past, you'll always be eligible for future trading competitions, but this one is awesome. It's probably the best one I've seen yet, with a full-on $16,000 individual prize pool, as well as a collective prize pool as well for the top 30 traders. Be sure to check out the link down below for more information. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Litecoin. Take a look here. We got some fib levels here, of course, pulled up, just kind of giving us perspective that the $25 to $26 range is at local resistance. It's a local high. It's been tested a few times, hasn't broken yet, but once more, a third time's a charm, right? And you can kind of see here, pretty obvious, a nice little cup and handle pattern here forming. So a distinct probability the price is going to continue a bit higher here, just based on the simple characteristics of retesting resistance ranges, and the likelihood of that area breaking is higher, okay? So let's look at the back end data here, kind of go from there, starting with Link here in the basically the second tier here. We can see $24 is the heaviest amount of interest, as well as 25 just above. So it doesn't tell us too much. It just kind of emphasizes the fact that we see a lot of interest in both above and below the price action, but more interest in longs than shorts. Generally speaking, when you see more longs versus shorts in this regard, then you have more favorability of the price going higher because more people are trying to buy. I'm willing to guess this coin has a nice liquidation long delta, which it does at about 100 million. So that emphasizes the continuation for further upside. We've also got a lot of open interest below the price between 23 and 24. Awesome. And same thing here as well. When we look at the amount of liquidation above the price, 25 to 26 is that next area. So this coin has tremendous potential to see 26 plus, or at least 26 in this little push continuation higher, just based on that local high range getting retested, and of course, a lot of good momentum. So it can be difficult to want to take a long when the price is running like this, but altcoins are surging. If you didn't catch my analysis from earlier, altcoin season index is firing on all cylinders. There's almost every single altcoin is outperforming Bitcoin so far, at least within the top 100. So we're looking really good there. So Chainlink has my vote for a long position. There's a ton of confluence on the daily time frame. Sorry, the 4-hour time frame. I'm assuming the daily time frame also has that because previously, when I looked at this last week, it definitely did. And we can see that confirming factors above 50 in the RSI and a new MACD convergence. So significant continuation potential for this coin to the upside. Okay, excellent chart for Chainlink. Take a look here at AVAX next. This coin is even more excellent, and we in fact have to zoom out to the 3-day time frame to get some perspective on where we're at. We've got the macro fib levels pulled up here to give us some indication of resistance ranges. Before we dive into this, let's take a quick look here at the order books. And just kind of recognize 34.50 is that heavily contested area, even as low as 33.50. So the price pulls back. We've got a very significant amount of AVAXs wanting to be purchased in the 33.5 to 34.5 range. Okay, we do also see some selling pressure above, but it pales in comparison to the amount of buying pressure. And once more, if you see that and you look at that and you combine that with the amount of liquidation delta, that's kind of reinforcing the fact that you don't want to try to short against this coin, especially with it overextending itself right now. That's all the more reason why people are shorting, I'm sure, but it's a bad idea because there's a lot of open interest support below the price. Even though the likelihood of the price pulling back to those areas is high, it may not happen right away. Okay, so you got to understand when coins like are in price discovery, at least within this year, we haven't seen this kind of price this year yet, then we're going to be seeing the price just continue to run kind of to ridiculous levels. We can look at fib extensions if we want to, but generally speaking, that 0.5 fib level is probably the first indication of a resistance range, which is coming up here soon. But the whole concept here is that this open interest range will likely work as a magnet when the price pulls back. So if you're going to consider shorting, remember it's high risk, but 31 to 32 would be that considerable area for take profit, considering all liquidation has been swept here. So me personally, I don't like to FOMO into a coin that's running like this. That's just not my style. So just know though, the propensity for this coin to go higher is greater, right? We've got a lot of moving averages below us. We got confluence there at $30 with that 200-day SMA on the 3-day time frame. That's a macro confirming factor. And then we're also above 70 on the RSI, which is even more bullish, kind of letting us know you don't want to short this coin. So while this coin has propensity to pull back, and it probably will in the relative near future, the odds of success in shorting right now is lower than the odds of success taking a long. So that's kind of where you're at there. I know it's probably not what you're looking for. You're probably wanting specific targets, but me personally, I don't like to trade situations like this. If you have a trade open, hold it open. Obviously, if you're in a spot bag, that's no big deal. My spot bag is looking nice here today, specifically with my AVAX investment in the previous, teens and 20s, right? But at this point, 35.30 as a rough estimate would be that local resistance based on just like the halfway macro resistance, or that halfway point from the previous high to the recent low. That's roughly the concept there. So trade carefully on this coin here, but once more, further upside makes sense. Slowing pressure between 35 and 40. That's the easy way to understand it. Quick heads up to my traders, make sure you take full advantage of this offer here from Bitunix. There's a significant deposit reward bonus as well as a $16,000 individual reward for just trading on the exchange. If you use my link to register in the past, you're automatically eligible. If you use my link to register now, you're eligible for all future trading bonuses and competitions. Check out the links down below for more information. All right, taking a look here at Ondo. Let's double check the back end here first. Just quickly note, get some baseline. We can see 2 million positions or 2 million Ondo wants to be purchased. A lot of asks there at 108 and 107. And then approximately the same amount at 110, but it's half the amount, right? Roughly half the amount. So that implies that people are trying to buy this coin. The price should be more likely to go higher at this point based on the simple fact that there's more people trying to buy. We take a look at the liquidation. This is an excellent thing. I love to trade situations like this where you see liquidation delta shifting from bearish to bullish. We got a full-on red, significant amount of liquidation not 24 hours ago, and now most every short is essentially flipped long, or there's more longs than shorts in the market right now. Ton of open interest support below 103 at $1 even. Obviously 95 cents as well. We've talked about that previously. We took some nice profits on this coin last week from a trade we took the week before, and we got in pretty heavy in the 95-cent range. So when we look at open interest, we already verified that we got a lot of support at 105. We've got a ton of liquidation potential of 115 to 120. So these are areas that are next on the docket there for the whales. Are going to push the price action higher and essentially get this coin pumping. Now, when we look at the bigger picture here, just kind of give you some perspective. While this is not an exact science, our previous daily candlestick closure high is 114. So I'd be willing to guess that we're probably more likely to shoot up to that level and reject off of that range here in the relative near future. Cool thing is there's a bunch of liquidation there. Once that's swept, the price usually pulls back. So my anticipation is that we're going to see a pump from 109 to 115 range based on those metrics. And we look at the overall daily time frame, we're full on bullish. There's nothing here that's remotely bearish. So 10 out of 10 on the daily for Ondo. And if we look at the 4 hour, we're now back up above the cloud. We are above our local high here, that resistance at 107. While we do have a fair value gap as low as 105, we do have a little bit of open interest there. The price pulls back, that'd be a good secondary consideration for a long. But when we look at the overall scenario here, everything is perfect here. The only thing I'd love to see is a little bit more higher money flow index, but that's a little bit low based on the simple fact that it's still including the last 14 candles, which is a lot of selling pressure previous in that $1 even range. So I really like the chart here for Ondo. I think you're more likely to find success going higher than lower. Just don't get super greedy. I think the 114 range would probably be a good place to consider profits. On a 10x leverage trade, you can get somewhere in the range of 40%. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at there for Ondo. Last thing is ICP. Now, I don't have the order book pulled up for this one, but I can pull up the backend data, give you some perspective on where we're at here for this coin. Because once more, when we take a look here at ICP, we can see heavy amount of concentration at 470 to 490 for open interest. So we're starting to pile up in that range. The likelihood of further higher probability is greater. Main reason why I say that is because we do have a pretty awesome double bottom potential here that's forming, right? So double bottom there at the 460, we got open interest below the price action. That's extra amount of support. So the propensity for further upside is higher because of those things. And we do take a look at the liquidation delta. While it's still bearish, it's only at like 5 million compared to 35 million. That means that even though more people are shorting this coin, we're seeing that disparity between the two and it's starting to shift momentum. Usually you see that leading into a resistance range, which is that $5 psychological resistance. When we zoom in though, we can see 5 to 530 is that next chunk of liquidation. I think shorts are gonna have a bad day here soon. Let's take a look at the daily time frame, just kind of quickly understand where we're at here for this coin. We are still under our macro moving averages, that's basically a 20 week SMA. So I'm not saying we're even remotely bullish on this coin for the macro perspective, but the concept here is that we're above our local point of control. We're approaching 50 on the RSI. Money flow index is high. That's super important with this double bottom. And if we look at the 4-hour time frame, we can also understand here as well that we even have a smaller time frame double bottom. And outside the 200-day SMA, that's right there at $5. The propensity of further upside is higher here. Okay. Once again, we've broken bullish. We've shifted momentum. Every indicator is looking super strong in the 4-hour time frame. The only outlier here is if Bitcoin were to pull back super hard, we could see a correction down to that open interest support at 460 to 470. So ICP also has my vote, not from a macro perspective, but from a short-term momentum shift perspective. We're seeing that early indication of further upside. Just know $5 will be a resistance here as per usual, psychologically. That's kind of where we're at. But I think there's decent propensity to see ICP go higher. So I'm pretty much bullish on all the coins we talked about here today, but obviously certain ones more so than others. What are your thoughts? Why don't you comment below? Let us know. I'd love to hear it. Don't forget to become a better trader if you want. CryptoCash.tech is a site, link down below. Look forward to working with you. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much for your time. We'll see you soon.